Soul of the Entrepreneur, a very good friend of mine, actually, and a fantastic business acquaintance, Evan Hopkins of Outdoorsy. And we'll go out into that a little bit later on. But just wanted to sort of lead in by saying Evan and I worked together a few years ago now when he was expanding his international operation, and he was coming to Europe. And it was the time of the World Cup, because we spent a lot of time in the pub talking and drinking beer and watching England go through that amazing journey in the World Cup, if our listeners and viewers can hear that. So welcome, Evan Hopkins of Outdoorsy. Welcome to SilentEgo. And yeah, I mean, we've just got to talk about you and the world you're in, because for our listeners and viewers, you represent a great proposition with the great outdoors. So I'll leave it for you to explain your background, and maybe then we go diving into you, the entrepreneur, because I know that you've got many strings to your bow, and you've got some really special interests, Evan. You're into your bikes and many other things. But I'll leave you to fire off. So how's things? And welcome, and let's go.
Thanks, Paul. It's great anytime we get the chat. So thanks very much for having me. So for myself, as you mentioned, got a chance to meet you as we were starting to expand Outdoorsy into Europe and also Australia, New Zealand. So you were fantastic in helping us understand some things that we needed to consider a little bit differently. The fact that business is done in a pub quite often, that was one of the lessons you taught for sure. It'd be a really great experience, though, for me. I've traveled a little bit in my life, but from a business perspective, learning the nuances of launching in Germany versus France and Italy versus Australia, it was really fascinating to me. So really appreciate all of the things that you helped us with there. A little bit about myself. Like so many people, planned to do one thing in school, ended up doing something completely different. I ended up going into sales. That definitely wasn't my initial plan, but really enjoyed that. And the leadership paths that opened up for me as well. So been in the telecom industry, travel industry from an airline perspective, now Outdoorsy, also in franchising, which was a great experience for me. I really enjoyed getting to work with so many entrepreneurs and seeing the commonalities of like what happens when people are successful, when you get to work with 300 plus entrepreneurs and seeing how they do attack the same problems, slight differences, but really that was a great learning experience for me. That was my MBA, I would say, for sure. And just getting to launch little ventures of my own along the way and work for great companies like Outdoorsy, giving me opportunities is uniquely special, especially in this last year where at one point business basically disappeared, right, in 2020
really?
for
Wow.
anyone in the travel space. For us, there's about a 2-month period there where totally understandably people didn't know if they could travel in any way, and people were staying home if they could. And big shout out to all those people that of course had to still go to work, and our healthcare professionals and everyone in those services, grocery stores, everyone having to work, but so many people choosing not to travel, of course, and in many places illegal to travel. But then it came roaring back. End of May, we went from what are we going to do to how do I hire 150 people tonight?
Outdoorsy. Let's talk about Outdoorsy, because I think you've got a very special solution, and the story's fantastic. Your model's super, but it is all about the outdoors, and it's about adventure. So for our viewers and listeners, let's talk about that, Evan. That'd be great to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. So for Outdoorsy, if people haven't heard about it yet, is we connect people who want to go and have an outdoor adventure with people who have an RV, caravan, camper van, depending where you are in your world, what you call it. And the challenge with those is people, they have one of those and it's been sitting in their driveway, in their garage, and wherever they've been storing it. And usually about 50 weeks of the year, often more than that. So it's sitting there idle. They still got their insurance payments to make. Potentially, they're still making payments on it. And then some people are paying money every single month to also store it. So we turn that into an asset for them where they can become an entrepreneur. And it's a great place to start if you haven't done it before. So we have people making as many as, call it 40,000 US a year. In Europe, we have people who are coming on board as well and having similar success, right? It's depending on seasonality in some places. But up where I'm from, originally in Canada, a lot of people are doing it year round. Class B, Mercedes, Sprinters, Dodge, ProMasters, those are really great ones where they outfit them and customize them. And they'll take them up to the mountains and go skiing or head to the back country and do some cross-country skiing or snowshoeing. So yeah, it's amazing what we're seeing people do. And then definitely last year with what was happening with COVID,
Yeah.
it was a great way for people to vacation, but be able to isolate.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what? I mean, I thought, when we first met, and the proposition was very similar to Airbnb, but for RVs, right? And now you've got a good foothold in the international market. I mean, you couldn't have got your timing better from that point of view, which is fantastic. So obviously going forward, that's it's a big subject right now with airline travel being constrained for one reason or another. But I've got a different sort of question actually with the RV market. We're now seeing kind of like hydrogen gas and electric sort of vehicles, the big carbon neutral world starting to kick in. Are you guys sort of experiencing that as well? I mean, are you seeing any new vehicles coming through and, more user sort of carbon friendly vehicles?
Two things on that. Definitely, we see people who are interested in that. They're interested, and we see the searches on our platform of people looking for electric vehicles, other options. We're also keeping a very close eye on that. We talk a lot with the manufacturers and understanding what's coming in the future, and we try to share information as well of what we're seeing they're being interested in. I think a lot of the manufacturers understand that they kind of have an opportunity with us, that these are potential future people that they're going to sell to, but this is a market that buyers now are thinking about, where I might need to rent my asset, and I might actually be buying this not just for my family vacation, but I might be buying this as an investment in a business. So for sure, you see those trends come in, exciting vehicles, coming from some of the most eccentric people in the world next year. You think about the trucks, all those sort of things. Pretty easy to slap one of those tents on top, right? One of the fold-out tents. Those are really cool and popular nowadays. You see people who are doing overland activities. So I think we're going to see more of that. The big challenge and the question usually that comes up, and I know I have with people, it's just the ability for them to have the range that people are looking for. Right. So if you're not going too far, I think those are things right now that already make sense. If you're planning on doing a little bit of a cross-country adventure, going back country, I think that's when people get a little bit more concerned, and they're going to lean more to the traditional solution still.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, and just from a sort of the next few years, I mean, you're in good shape as a company, and you're planning as usual, because obviously, you're representing the great outdoors. I see it as a booming game now. People reaching out to nature. Even being honest with you, Evan, even I'm thinking about it. Right. I'm going from the guy with a car called a Range Rover and saying, I want to look at a camper vehicle so I can just go missing in action any point in time. And it's now becoming a kind of like something I want to achieve in the next year or so, which is fantastic. So if I'm thinking like that, Jesus, there must be there'll be about a 30% uplift on your growth next year.
Well, I think about you, amongst other friends that I have as well, where they've been in the Four Seasons before, but it was the hotel, and now they're thinking about actually being outside in the seasons, for sure. But I think, you're one of those great candidates, right? You have the ability to probably work from almost wherever you can be, as long as you got internet. And if you think about the experience, right? You and Teddy going out, you have one of those right on the Range Rover, right? You throw on one of the tents there that just folds open. It takes about 5 minutes at most to get set up, and you guys can go have a great adventure. You can still get some work done. And I do find, I did a trip with the family this year where we were out at a campground for a week. And I worked off the picnic table the whole week, used my cell phone for internet connectivity, and the most creative ideas all week. It was the best work that I did this year by far. Really? From a creative standpoint. Yeah, you're fresh air, you're looking around, you're seeing nature, birds go by, I didn't see any deer or bears or anything, right? But you just never know what's going to happen. And the family's having a great time. So for me, I think people are going to be more open to that. Of course, at our company, we are. We every single week when we have our weekly meeting, we're like, so who's on the road? Where are you? Let's see some pictures. But I think that's going to become a lot more common for people. And like I said, I think the company got some of its best work for me this year while I was doing that, because I was as creative as possible. And not just because I'm in an outdoor business, but just for any business, that was my best work this year.
That's fantastic to hear. So for our listeners and viewers, guys, I mean, listen to Evan. He's in the RV camp industry, and there you go, a classic example of work-life integration on the move. And that sort of inspiration of going out to nature, because in some respect we are doing business through the glassroom now, aren't we? We're kind of everything's become P2P, face to face, through the glassroom. But getting out in nature in a free environment is a super cool way to express sort of a better work life. And that's part of the outdoorsy culture, isn't it? And if I remember right, when we were expanding across Europe, the interest was massive with people. They thought, wow, this is a unique company. I mean, Outdoorsy guys, I mean, check them out online. They're a super cool company, and got great people working with them, great culture, if I remember right. So talk to us a little bit about that, Evan, because your CEO is a real kindred spirit, isn't he? He's a good leader, and you guys all, have a lot of respect for the destiny.
Absolutely. I think for myself, I got to know Jeff, who's our CEO, Jen, who's our CMO and founder as well. And I've known Jen for a number of years. That's what got me connected with Outdoorsy. And then I got a chance to meet Jeff once for about an hour. You'll love this, a meeting at the pub at the airport as he was coming through town. And that was about 6 or 7 months before I started working with the company. And I just this guy sees around corners. He is super passionate about business. He was wearing one of those outdoor vests, and he was traveling for business. But you're like, this guy just loves the outdoors. He absolutely loves what he's doing. I was with one of his team members there as well. They had a great connection, huge respect. He was really present and listening to the team member as well and some ideas that person had. And so for me, just a lot of those values made sense for me. So when there was the opportunity to join it, it was absolutely no brainer. And then you have someone like Jen, who is just a brand master. I've seen her create brands before when we worked together, and from scratch make something magical. And then the fact that she got to do it with Outdoorsy, she's also Canadian. So again, just sort of the way that she approaches it, the values just really line up with me. But you're right, going across Europe, whatever country we're in, I only speak English and the tiniest little bit of French. But as I got to meet people and talk with them and my team members over there, everyone is just sort of shocked by the idea if they haven't thought about it before. And this was before we had what just happened last year. This is when people are like, yeah, I should do that. I've never done that, or I haven't done that since I was a kid. So there's a lot of this sort of magical memory that was coming back for people. And then people who were seeing their camper van as this lost asset, or this caravan sitting there that they barely ever use. Sometimes people weren't using it for years. I heard that all the time. I haven't used it in 3 or 4 years. Wow. And then I would say, well, what does that cost you in the last few years? And they would talk about thousands and thousands of euros or pounds or dollars that this has cost them. So yeah, it's really fun to unlock that side too, and see the impacts. And we saw some stories this year that, again, people losing jobs or less work that they were able to get this year, and it kept families afloat. So with everything else on top of that, knowing you're making an actual true difference in people's lives, that's pretty special.
Yeah, it's really nice to hear, Evan. I mean, somewhere on this journey, you've got, nature is your CEO. It's created that playground for you guys to get out there and help people sort of have better life experiences. And now you can do both work life and it's the open road. It's that big sense of freedom. And just for our listeners and viewers, when I was working closely with Evan and we were hiring across Europe at the time, one of the prerequisites on the job spec, you'd love this, was you must have experienced either camping, had the experience of an RV, So somewhere on this journey, this company Outdoorsy has got a real soul, and it's so fresh to listen to, things like hiring requirement. You must have spent the night outdoors in a tent. And that was part of the spec, wasn't it? It's great. What a fun company.
It's really important. I just onboarded a director recently to my team, and as we were talking about the onboarding process, basically said, all right, so next week I want you to go camping. And she was a little bit surprised. I was like, no, like I've put credits in your account, and you don't have to go away for a week or anything, but I want you to go through our platform experience because, we are a technology company. You need to understand what we're doing, what we're supporting, no matter what role you are in the company. And also, like, just go have a break. You've been doing something before this. Just go have like a nature break in between what you've been doing before you join Outdoorsy and we find that to be a really nice reset. We do encourage our team members, and we pay for it. Twice a year, you can go out on a trip and do it locally. You can have something delivered somewhere if you don't feel like towing it or driving it, which my family does a lot. I got two daughters, my wife, two dogs. It's just easier sometimes to have something delivered, and then we show up, camp for the period, we leave, the owner comes and takes it away. So yeah, we're a big believer in getting out there, using our product, but we also think it's great for mental health. With all of the restrictions we put on spending during the hardest parts of last year from a business perspective, we did not take away the benefit of these trips because we thought it was one of the most important things we could do for our team members. Like I said, when I got out, that was one of the best weeks of work I did, but also mentally, I came back and felt like I'd had a week of vacation, even though I was still working my, tons and tons of hours that you do at a startup. But it was still a refresh.
No, it's so nice to hear. And I think that, initially, it goes back to the pace of change, but if you think about the blessing and the curse of what we're talking about there, and I genuinely remember when everything kicked off last year, early stages of 20, I did think of Outdoorsy immediately, that everybody's going to be looking at this new means of expressing a vacation or a small trip, getting people back to nature. Absolutely fantastic. Changing tack a second, Evan, we've kind of done a little bit of research here on you. And is this right, that you were once a volleyball coach?
I did, yeah. We didn't intend to be. I was always circling back to pubs here, but I was at a pub, and my old basketball, volleyball coach from school was coming through the pub, and he was actually there to pick up his son. And he was now a vice principal at a school, and we all recognized him. You go back to being like 14 years old when you see an old teacher, an old coach. And he just said, Hopkins, here's my phone number. Call me on Monday. I have a job for you. And I'm like, okay, coach, I'll call you. So I called him, ended up coaching at the school for, I think it was 5 years. A lot of fun. And I think it was interesting because the things I was learning as a leader in business, I was absolutely trying to transfer there, and vice versa. I probably learned more coaching that has helped me in my work career. I ended up coaching girls volleyball. We won 2 provincial championships, which no small task at the 4A level, so the biggest schools in the province. And more importantly, just amazing kids. Like I said, I learned a ton. Incredibly fond memories of that for sure.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I know that, just stepping aside a second, you've got some entrepreneurial interests as well. We understand that, I know that you had a career in the airline industry for some time, and then, you're involved with different ventures and things like that. Just tell us a little bit about that. That'll be interesting for our listeners to learn.
Yeah, like airline industry, I absolutely sort of caught that travel bug, but also the airline that I was at, WestJet in Canada, they really encouraged you to be entrepreneurial there. And the way that they wanted you to approach problems, turn them into solutions, look for opportunities, even just manage your budget, whether you had a small team or a large organization. So then I went over and I worked at a franchising company. And while I was there, we were launching new brands, and I was part of that process. And one of the brands was interesting for sure, but I actually was sort of like, I don't know if I want to do it. I'm pretty busy, full-time job. We were just about to have our first child. And then one of my direct reports said, Evan, I don't have the money to do this, but I know I can do it. I know I can launch it. They had some great experience having run a different type of home service business before. And I was like, yeah, I'll be part of it. And so we launched a moving business, and we have a pretty large territory, but it's doing great. We have a general manager. We've always had a general manager from day one, day-to-day operating it. And we've been helping to guide them, working on marketing, different things like that. So many learnings from that as well. We went through 3 general managers in 2 years. Right. And then we now have the same general manager for a number of years. I think one of the biggest tips I would put out to anyone there is, if you have someone working in your business, a general manager type situation like that, the best thing we did was have them earn into the business and buy into the business. Right. So they're now also a co-owner. And I think that just gets that full buy-in. You don't want to do that too quickly. You want to make sure you got the right person. But once you have that right person, you got to invest in them, and you got to make them feel and truly have skin in the game. So that's been fantastic for us. So ever since we found that right person, we've been growing. We had our best year ever last year, which is kind of crazy to think. Again, with what happened last year, the moving industry was quite busy, especially where we were located, and we had some great growth. And actually, I think we beat our goals. Just halfway through December, we beat our annual goal that we had set at the start of the year.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. It's actually interesting on this sort of, concept of moving. It's interesting. I think a lot of people, we're in the UK, obviously, we're going through a kind of an interesting phase here where we're in a lockdown. And it does get you thinking about, obviously, planning when you come out, how you're going to kind of reshape your life. And as I said, about the mobility element and, the sort of RV side of it, getting back to nature, reconfiguring. But I also think there's a lot of people's minds now are starting to think about what country I want to live in, or if this is something, I want to be in the sun, in the snow, all of that's sort of coming up as well. And I think what I like about coming back to the RV piece, and I know you're into bikes as well, right? You like your motorbikes, is that right?
That's right. Yeah, not ones I got to work hard, ones that I can sit and enjoy, for sure.
Exactly. And I think that there is this sort of constant moving and sense of freedom about you, Evan. You're always, exploring. You're always wanting to be somewhere. I remember when you come here, it was sort of, I'm going to pop across to France, and then I'm going to pop over to Germany. You were sort of keen to sort of get the experiences of different cultures and things like that, which I thought was, was really, really good. But just zeroing in this sort of, people now kind of got multiple choices coming up as regards how they sort of deploy their free time. Coming back to the RV, that gives you such a sense of freedom, doesn't it? I know we've kind of got this thing to manage and all the rest of it, but you just get wrapped up, you get on, you get going, boom. You can be in a different part of the world, or you can be in a different part of your country, in a more free environment. It's just so much flexibility. Yeah.
Absolutely. Two things that you hit on there resonate very, very much for myself and our family is we're loving living in Austin. For sure, I'm glad we're here versus other places where, it could be raining or snowing. And I got to ride my motorcycle on Christmas this year, which I have not had the opportunity to do before. So that was a nice ride. But the being able to travel around and move and freedom, I think even for people that might not have been like a desire before, right, we're going to see a really big boom on that once people can move around freely. I think about my dad. He'll love me bringing this up, but he's a homebody. He was designed for a pandemic and a lockdown. Even him, he's like, we're going to come down and visit you guys. We should go to see some F1 races. Let's go to Montreal. Let's go. He was even open to going to Europe and let's head over to Spa or Silverstone. So my family loves F1. We talk about it all the time. Right. So for him, I think he's just like that canary, right? Who says if he's going to do that, we're just going to see it all over the place. But I think people will still want to do it in as safe a way as they can for a while. And there's something different about being able to go in an RV and be able to go right up to the edge of the ocean and camp. Imagine what it would cost to have a nice hotel, because some of these vehicles are beautiful. I got some of the ones in Italy, Italy, of course, fantastic design. The ones that they're driving there, it's like going around in a yacht. If you're in a hotel room beside the ocean or beside some of the beautiful natural things in the world, you'd be talking thousands of dollars a night. Instead of a couple hundred, pounds or dollars. So I think that we're going to see quite an explosion of people wanting to enjoy the outdoors in lots of ways. But I was trying to remind people, the RV is part of it. That's how you're moving around. But it's, what are you doing? I love fishing. My girls love to fish with me. So we love doing that. We love getting golfing. We love, hikes. That's our big thing. The girls are really loving right now with the dogs. So we are not just a tech company. That's just how we facilitate having these wonderful outdoor experiences.
Yeah. And I think that's that big sense of adventure. I know that, for us, guys and, our audience today, I think that there's that sort of that sense of freedom, but it brings that sort of child out in you as well. I mean, I always remember years and years ago going on a caravan holiday as a kid, and, you can still treasure the memories. I can even now sense the smell of, a kind of in those days, a kind of foisty caravan experience, the kind of the dew on the windows and the inside and things like that. Now, I know we're not talking about that too much, but, we've got these luxury vehicles out there right now. But once again, it brings back the senses, the sense of adventure, the expression, back to nature, outdoorsy, nature's your CEO. It's a certainty, there's the real affinity there with the whole thing. So you're planning a boom time over there, and international business is really good. Any particular country that's sort of showing more interest than others? Any sort of something you can glean there, Evan?
Yeah, outside of the U.S., which absolutely we're seeing some strength there. Canada is going really well for us. Really? We see tons of people flock into the Outdoorsy sites there, and already booking not just into 2021 here, but like we have bookings into 2022 already, where people are making their plans. So that's kind of exciting. And then for us in the European countries, we've focused really on professionals first. And the peer-to-peer market is very important, but what we know is the professionals, they're going to be there for a long time. They also have really solid inventory. They know what they're doing, high quality. So for us, it's a great baseline to build upon. So we have a product, which I know you're aware of, that is very focused on them facilitating their business. We give it to them for free so that they can help them grow. And then it also connects them up into Outdoorsy so that we can send them bookings, again, to help their business grow and be successful. And it's good for us too. So I think from a European standpoint, UK, France, definitely seeing some really good things happening in Italy, but Spain, Portugal, some places that I'd really like to do some trips myself over the next year when things open up. So yeah, those would be the core ones. And then Australia, New Zealand, those are countries that live and breathe this. I was looking at a stat, I think it was about 366,000 people from the UK a few years ago traveled to Australia. And about 35,000 of those people, while they were there, rented a caravan or a camper van or something along the lines. So you see what people like to do when they already go to places. And again, that was before everything happened last year and where we're currently at. So I think you're just going to see it accelerate more and more.
It's interesting. I'll make a prophecy. And, 2021 is a big time for change. And I think we're all sort of going to experience that in different ways. And, our conventional education system, is, right now, obviously, a lot of our children can't go to school for various reasons. So we're now homeschooling. And I think we know what's coming down the line, that, there's a high probability that it's going to be blended learning, in the sense of there'll be sometimes you'll be at school, sometimes you'll be. But then again, if you think about that long term, it's kind of, are we going to see sort of where technology starts to come into our home environment and actually support education, which is then going to lend itself to, we can go away at any time of the year and still educate our children, because everything's now coming down online, and, there's so much new life coming, isn't there? Ben and I, my business partner over here in Zengility.life, which is the sister company to EagerStream, we talk about the new rich. The new rich is you're kind of living examples where you've got work life integrated, and you've got so much flexibility and freedom of how you do your daily work. And I think we might see that in the education system, strangely enough. But once again, it lends itself to that mobility and flexibility of being in different environments at any point in time, which is just amazing,
Absolutely. My youngest brother, I got to give him credit for this one, sort of about 10 years ago called this as he was going through post-secondary. He's like, this can't last much longer. It's going to have to change. And we grew up with a dad who's a computer programmer, and he was working from home sort of long before anyone even sort of understood you could do that. We had early internet connections, and I think you're right. Like, there's just this opportunity for us to reimagine not just work and the work environment, which is happening so rapidly right now, but education. And he said a long time ago, you're sitting in a classroom, teachers reading from chalkboard back then, whiteboard, now a PowerPoint presentation, but do I have to be there? Could this just not be sent to me and I could listen to an audio recording or read it myself? I think you still want to get there for a lot of the social learning. I think there's, if you want to be able to have debates, but then you start to layer in new technologies. I'm definitely somebody who likes to fiddle with new technology. We just got one of the Oculus VR helmets, the Quest 2. And
wow.
We were playing with that, the family over the holidays here, and you could absolutely have a virtual classroom. You can have engagement that would feel much more in person. You could, my daughter, she has a program on there where she can paint and do art and sculptures in 3D. And you see her in the room, she's got the goggles. It always looks funny when someone's doing VR, right? She's going around, she's looking on her palette, and you can project it on the TV and see what she's doing. And just the creativity that it unlocks is amazing. She doesn't need to go to a school for that, Now there's obviously the sort of social economic things that make it easier for some people to do than others. But yeah, I think there's a lot to reimagine in education for sure.
So on the education, the VR piece, I mean, absolutely, it's something that you can just feel is on its way. We kind of, we've got work-life integration, we've got education integrating in with that. And then that's going to give people more freedom, more choices, more time to sort of express their lives. And I think somewhere on this journey, this is where that marriage of technology is going to meet nature. And I think the RV is like the holy grail of that. You're going to be able to express yourself. But Evan, just as we come to a kind of conclusion on our great sort of podcast today, and you are in such a sort of privileged place to be representing such a great value proposition, in Outdoorsy. That the culture of your company is unique. I know you've got great guys working there because I've met a lot of them, and obviously over the time we worked together, have helped you get a couple of those people. Yeah. But it's really, really great to hear that you're in a great growth place, and long may it continue. And I think you're very right. The sort of the solution you offer is multidimensional. Work, leisure, flexibility, freedom, call it what you like. It's kind of back to nature. So with that in mind, Evan, it's been it's been great to talk to you. It's been great to hook up with you. And have you got any, final things you want us to sort of push out to our audience today?
Yeah, I thought you were going to ask a question like that. And, I think you have a lot of entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs. I'm sure you also have some people who are further in their careers and their entrepreneurial journeys out there. And I think one of those things, no matter what stage I've seen people in or what stage I've been in myself, you're never alone. You always have people like Paul, like me. Right? I don't know who you are. I've probably never met you. But reach out on LinkedIn to people. Reach out to people that you know who've already done it or might have been doing something that you've already done. I learned that very early in my career, that asking for help, likely people are going to help you. And so far, I have had 0 people in my career say that they couldn't help me. And usually they put down what they're doing. Maybe they shouldn't even be doing it because they're often quite busy. They'll often put down what they're doing and prioritizing to answer questions for me or help me with what I'm challenged on, whether it's leadership, a sales or marketing issue, or anything. So you're never alone. There's lots of people out there, and some people you got to pay for, and sometimes you do get what you pay for. It's worth it. But there's a lot of people out there who'd just be happy to have right now a virtual coffee and help you. So just make sure you reach out when you need it.
Exactly. Oh, that's a very kind message, Evan. Really appreciate it. So for our listeners and viewers, once again, another great podcast with a very interesting person, Evan Hopkins of Outdoorsy. He's a true spirit in the business world, and he is the soul of the business and a fantastic entrepreneur. Thank you, Evan. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. We must catch up soon. Pubs are closed, so maybe it's a coffee.
Coffee soon, virtual pub. But Paul, thanks for having me. Can't wait to see you live in person again soon.